Over the course of this show, I've asked a lot of questions, but I believe that there is one question that ultimately determines the success of content in the world we live in today. So, if your brand films aren't working, if your product launches are falling flat, and if your brand campaigns aren't resonating, you'll want to stick around for this short episode because I've condensed 5 years worth of interview questions into one episode. In episode 178, Drew Potler shared some really fascinating insight. He said, I think it's presumptuous to assume that the audience wants to hear from brands. And I couldn't agree more with what Drew shared. I do think it's presumptuous. I think we as marketers, people in-house and those of us at brands, we assume that people want to hear from us. They want to hear about our new product launch. They want to hear about our new brand film. While this is true, there are exceptions. I think for the vast majority of brands out there, they don't have this level of trust. They don't have this level of community that they've built with their audience to overcome the initial objection that I believe every single person asks themselves as they engage in this digital ecosystem we live in. Think about your audience for a second and think about the shoes that they stand in. Every single day that they see between 7 to 10,000 ads every day. They're inundated with content. There's not enough time and too much content to choose from. And so because of this, people have to be hyper selective about what they want to spend their time engaging with. Do they want to watch Netflix? Do they want to spend time outside? Do they want to scroll Instagram? Do they want to go on Pinterest and look up how to build a new go-kart for their kid? People's time has never been more sought after. And that's why I think it's presumptuous for brands to assume that people care what you have to say. Megan Prettyman said it really well in episode 140. She said that most content problems come from a lack of strategy. Many brands are overeager to get to production, and they don't spend enough time in the strategy phase ideating, developing ideas, and crafting a plan that's actually going to work. Because production is only a piece, it's maybe 20% of the actual work in producing great creative, strategic creative. I think the root of great strategy is answering the question, why should I care? There are a handful of elements that make up this question. And if you can answer each of these elements, you will ultimately answer the question, why should I care? The first element is answering the question, what is my goal? So, as a brand, what am I trying to achieve with this campaign? What am I trying to achieve with this brand film? And more often than not, I find that the goal that's proposed isn't the real goal, which is why at Portside, we ask the question, why 3 times? Asking why 3 times peels back the layers and ultimately reveals what we're aiming for, what success looks like. Understanding your goal, it sounds so silly, but it's critical. It's foundational to actually moving forward with the next step. The next step is knowing your audience. And we talk about this a lot on the show. Charlie Grinnell had a great episode where he talked all about knowing your audience, but knowing your real audience, not the audience you assume is your audience. Now, why is this important? Because if you don't know who you're talking to, then you're talking to no one. And in today's oversaturated content world, you have to align your content with your audience. And if you don't know who your audience is, then how can you craft content that's going to align with them? The third step is knowing your brand. And we just released an episode with Matt Trapp where we talked all about creatives working upstream to try and help differentiate brands. And you see this in the industry a lot. What's the difference between this jacket company and that jacket company? The difference between this shoe company and that shoe company. Ultimately, great brand is what is going to disseminate through the layers of business into your creative. And if you don't have a strong brand, then it's hard to create great creative. The next step is the creative itself. Why should I care about the video that you're presenting to me? Is it interesting? Is it entertaining? Does it play in culture well? Is there an emotional component that pulls me in as the audience? Those questions are paramount. And in, again, today's oversaturated content world, you have to give people a reason to stick around. That's why the 6-second hook is so powerful. But once you get past those first 6 seconds, how do you keep someone engaged? Well, you have to give them a reason to stick around. I saw a company recently launch a new sleeping bag and they put out a video announcing the launch. And I watched the video and I didn't care. Other than it was a company I liked, other than the fact that it looked like a cool sleeping bag, the video itself didn't answer the question, why should I care? Therefore, it's not memorable. It's not relatable. And me as a potential customer, what incentive do I have to purchase that product beyond its features and benefits and its price? Not a whole lot. That's where great creative can step in. Because if you can convince someone emotionally, they'll rationalize it logically later when they've actually made the purchase. One of the final steps is aligning your distribution with your audience. And again, in the quest to answer the question, why should I care? Understanding where your audience is actually spending time is paramount to placing your creative and your content in that ecosystem. So if you don't know who your audience is, but you don't know where they're spending their time, chances are you're not going to be able to make them care about what you have to say. You're not showing up in the right place at the right time. I know that these sound like simple topics. They take a lot of hard work. They take a tremendous amount of work to actually dig deep, to really understand who is our audience, to really understand what is our brand. No, those questions, they don't just happen overnight. But great strategy comes when you align these topics together. By answering those small questions, you answer the big question, which is why should I care? It goes without saying that the outdoor industry faces a lot of headwinds. It has for a couple years now, and it looks like it's only going to face more. I believe that now more than ever, it's absolutely critical to produce strategic creative work because brands can't afford to just put out creative and hope that it works. Brands can't just spend money and hope that it has a return. Now more than ever, we have to make sure that the creative that we're producing actually works, that we're setting it up for success, that we're de risking the creative investment, and that we're pulling all of our tools together in order to ensure success once things are out into the wild. Here at Portside, we have evolved from a production company to a creative studio. We see a strong need in our industry for more strategic creative video work. We've mapped the last 200 episodes on our podcast and pulled the insights from each of them as it pertains to producing strategic, creative video work. We've assembled these insights into a filter that we call the backcountry marketing filter. And the way we work with folks today is by taking your ideas, your product launches, your brand campaigns, your brand films, any other sort of video content that you're creating, we can run through this filter of 200 plus insights that can look for the red flags, the blind spots, as well as the opportunities that might be preventing your content from working out in the wild. So if you're curious about how to produce work that actually works, you have to ask yourself, why should I care? Put yourself in your audience's shoes and ask that question. By answering that question, you won't guarantee success because nothing is guaranteed in the world of marketing, but you will significantly improve the odds of success with your creative. And if you need a little help, if you need someone to ask the hard questions, if you need someone who has the strategy, the research tools, the creative capabilities, as well as the distribution tools, reach out to us. We'd love to ask the hard questions and we'd love to help you make creative content that works together.